Well, a big focus in a significant move. The Donald Trump administration in the US stepped up its clash with Harvard University by stripping the school of its right to admit international students. This decision has left thousands of foreign students, including hundreds from India, in a state of uncertainty, as you can imagine. The Trump administration has clearly said it is halting Harvard University's ability to enroll international students and has ordered existing international students at the university to transfer or lose their legal status. The international students have been told to either transfer to another institution or risk losing their legal status in the US. In fact, Harvard's official website says that anywhere between 500 to 800 Indian students and scholars are part of the university every year. Right now, 788 students from India are currently enrolled at the university, so this move could significantly affect Harvard, which enrolls nearly 6,800 international students, most of them in graduate programs. And for an expert's view on the matter, joining us live from Texas at the moment, senior attorney Jeff Kilo. And we'll also have alumni of the Harvard University, Professor Richard Painter, with us in just a few moments. Jeff, thank you so much for your time joining us on NDTV. Legally speaking, how shaky or solid is the Trump administration's decision to revoke Harvard's ability to host F1 and J1 visa students? They, in fact, say that 27% of their students are actually international students.
Yeah, it's hard to, obviously Harvard has already come out and said they plan to, fight this decision. Administration of the CVIS program, it's pretty clear in the regulations as far as what's required for a university to be certified in the program. The reporting requirements, are pretty clear as well but they're really largely based on making sure that the university updates student address information, is reporting, their work information. The universities maintain their compliance in all these, fairly standard areas. And so the administration's letter today really goes beyond that. And it does open them up to challenge, but at the same time, a challenge could take a while. In the letter, the administration gave Harvard 72 hours to provide a number of materials, from the last 5+ years, related to their foreign student population. But that goes beyond, again, what's in the regulations for maintaining compliance with CVIS. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly this moves with Harvard and their challenges, likely end up in court.
Well, we'll be keeping a close eye on all the developments. But the administration, meanwhile, Jeff, is framing this as a crackdown on anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism. Can such claims legally underpin visa revocations?
Well, for an individual, if they have, issues in their past related to those issues, that could certainly be an issue. For the university itself, the reporting requirements as part of this program are reporting, making sure students are attending classes, making sure the students themselves are staying out of trouble. So if someone has been arrested before and Harvard's not reporting that could certainly be an issue. But again, the letter today goes well beyond that. And it includes, it seems to be another escalating step in the administration's war against, some of our elite universities. That they frame it, they talk about how they took away funding from Harvard as well.
Right.
So, this is part of a larger pattern.
You think this could escalate into a precedent-setting legal showdown between federal authorities and private universities?
Yeah, they've already made that clear, and the Trump administration intends to target foreign students who are here in the United States studying. They've released new rules and guidance as far as reviewing applicants for visas for social media history. They've also, over the past several months, there were, I think, around 5,000 foreign students who had their SEVIS records terminated on an individual basis. And so, that was actually enjoined in court today. But you've seen, this pattern of activity amping up the pressure on foreign students and the scrutiny that's being applied to foreign students. In some cases, it goes beyond, certainly individuals who are causing problems. There's, no need for that. But, it does appear people are being caught up, innocent people, who maybe don't have anything that would otherwise impact their immigration status. So, yeah, it is something that's part of a larger pattern with the administration. There's also talk, of other ways. It's not just people who are currently studying at these universities. Harvard graduates who may be working in the United States with employers, some of our largest, most important companies, who are working on their OPT. Those individuals are also impacted by the ruling, by the decision today.
Right. Meanwhile, Secretary Noam says that Harvard's non-compliance with record requests has justified this entire move. But from a legal standpoint, does due process seem to have been followed?
It's certainly going to be shaky, and obviously, Harvard's going to have, when it comes to due process arguments and those arguments, it's going to be, they're going to have some of the finest lawyers they can muster on the case. I will say, I think the challenge is going to be, there's in the CVS regulations, there's a process for removing school certifications. Typically this is done, universities have to be recertified on a rolling basis every few years. And so you do see, cases where universities may lose that certification. Typically it's certainly not an institute, as respected and prestigious as Harvard. It's maybe a university that isn't complying with the data keeping requirements, or, an institute like Trump University where it's not necessarily on the up and up. So, their actions certainly going to be challenged. The hard part is obviously for individuals who are there. You mentioned 800 or so Indian students. It's not going to resolve overnight. The administration is looking for a fight, it seems, and they're not going to. It's not going to be as simple as Harvard responding to the letter, providing the materials. Even if they do that, who knows what would happen to the SEVIS certification?
Well, as we wrap, Jeff, then how strong would you say Harvard's legal position is if this ends up at an apex court, at the Supreme Court, and what timeline are we realistically looking at?
I think obviously they've given Harvard 72 hours to provide additional documentation. There have been ongoing discussions, and I don't know the nature of those with the university. For those individuals who are impacted directly already, obviously, they will be needing to look for alternative ways to stay in the United States, whether it's obtaining some sort of visa or status through a spouse, or employment, or short-term visas or other options, in university settings. Because unless Harvard is certified to enroll students through SEVIS, they obviously won't be able to go back to Harvard.
Right. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us with the clarifications that we crucially needed at this point. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates.
Thank you. Wish it was on better news.
Well, with that, let's turn our attention to the other big story we're tracking from the US. The man accused of fatally shooting 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy in Washington outside a Jewish museum told police after his arrest that he did it for Palestine and he did it for Gaza. This is what federal authorities have confirmed in announcing charges in the killings they called a targeted act of terrorism. The stunning attack prompted Israeli missions to beef up their security, also lower their flags to half-staff. And it came as Israel pursues another major offensive in the Gaza Strip in the war with Hamas that has heightened tensions across the Middle East and internationally, and that law enforcement officials have repeatedly warned could inspire violence in the US. We have reactions lined up for you from Netanyahu as well as an attorney. Listen in.
Last night in Washington, something horrific happened. A brutal terrorist shot in cold blood a young, beautiful couple, Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Milgram. Yaron had just bought an engagement ring for Sarah. He was planning to give it to her in Jerusalem next week. They were planning to start a new and happy life together. Well, that tragically did not happen. Yaron and Sarah weren't the victims of a random crime. The terrorist who cruelly gunned them down did so for one reason and one reason alone. He wanted to kill Jews. And as he was taken away, he chanted, "Free Palestine." This is exactly the same chant we heard on October 7th.
The president and the attorney general have both indicated that, in cases where the death penalty is warranted and seems appropriate, we will use it. It's far too early to say whether that is the case, but this is a death penalty eligible case.
Meanwhile, a woman was shot by CIA security after she drove up to a gate at the agency's headquarters and failed to stop. This is what reports state. The woman was taken to a medical facility with what law enforcement officials believed was a non-fatal gunshot wound to the upper body. Meanwhile, a private jet carrying a music talent agent and 5 others hit a power line in foggy weather and crashed into a San Diego neighborhood, slamming into a home that burst into flames and killing multiple people on the flight. These are the visuals coming in from that San Diego neighborhood. With that, let's turn our attention to the other big story we're tracking on NDTV. The Republican-controlled US House of Representatives has passed a sweeping tax and spending bill by a single vote, which would enact much of President Donald Trump's policy agenda and saddle the country with trillions of dollars more in debt. This bill would fulfill many of Trump's populist campaign pledges, delivering new tax breaks on tips and car loans and boosting spending on the military and border enforcement. It will add about $3.8 trillion to the federal government's $36.2 trillion in debt over the next decade. This is according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. But this 1,100-page bill would extend corporate and individual tax cuts passed in 2017 during Trump's first term in office, cancel many green energy incentives passed by Democratic former President Joe Biden, and also tighten eligibility for health and food programs for the poor. It doesn't end here. It would also fund Trump's crackdown on immigration, adding tens of thousands of border guards and creating the capacity to deport up to 1 million people each year. There'll be regulations on firearm silencers that'll be loosened, is what we're picking up on. But for further clarity and the key takeaways, let's take you straight across to New York. Peter Cartier joins us at the moment. Peter, while the US House has narrowly passed this sweeping tax and spending package, it seems Wall Street is less enthusiastic about this so-called big, beautiful bill?
Yeah, there's no question about it, and especially the bond market. You know, they're basically sending a loud message to Washington that they're not happy with this bill because it's going to add to the deficit in a fairly big way. And of course, we saw that with the markets yesterday and today as well. And so I think maybe when the Senate gets its hands on it, that they're going to have to make some adjustments and try to convince the bond markets that it's not all that negative as perception believes it is.
Well, we'll of course wait for the Senate to get their hands on this bill and then look at it in greater detail. But thank you so much, Peter, as always, for joining us with those quick, crucial comments. Meanwhile, the Food and Drug Administration's Advisory Committee unanimously recommended that newest vaccines for COVID should be updated to target a variant of strains currently on the rise during a meeting, which was the first since the Trump administration took office. Now, this meeting actually focused on selecting a COVID strain to target in upcoming vaccines, as well as formalizing new FDA rules that limit vaccine access to Americans. Though it was intended to help advisors recommend strains for the upcoming year's booster shots to the FDA, this meeting came in the context of upheaval at the Federal Health Department as Trump 2.0 has taken charge.
There we go. Breathe.
Slipping into a very quick commercial break for now. Back in a moment with much more. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. Well, Tata Group-owned Trent Limited and Bharat Electronics Limited, BEL, will be included in the 30-stock BSE Sensex Index, replacing IndusInd Bank and Nestle India, as per the latest rebalancing announced by Asia Index Private Limited, which is a BSE Limited subsidiary. These changes will take effect from the start of trading on the 23rd of June 2025. And the index reshuffle is expected to trigger capital movements as funds tracking the Sensex adjust their portfolios accordingly. With that, let's turn our attention now to the United Kingdom, where long-term net migration to Britain actually fell by 50% in 2024. This is what official data indicates. as fewer people arrived on work and study visas following rule changes to cut the number of arrivals. A sharp and unprecedented fall in the UK's net migration has also reignited debate over the nation's identity, the economy and political direction. But this new data from the Office for National Statistics reveals that net migration dropped to 4,31,000 in 2024, nearly halving from 8,60,000 the previous year. So this 49.9% decline, to be precise, marks the steepest annual percentage drop since the pandemic and the largest numerical fall on record. More than just numbers, this shift signals a country recalibrating its place in the world, one that is struggling to strike a balance between openness and control, growth and cohesion, pragmatism and populism. But according to PTI, the impact of the UK's tightening visa and immigration policies is reflected in the country's latest migration statistics, with Indian students and workers among the largest group of foreigners to have left the country over the past year. Switching tracks, well, the United States would bear legal responsibility in the event of an Israeli attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. This is what Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has clearly said, following a CNN report that Israel might be preparing strikes on Iran. Iran and the United States, Israel's closest ally, will hold a fifth round of nuclear talks today in Rome amid deep disagreement over uranium enrichment in Iran, which Washington says could lead to developing nuclear bombs. Iran, as we have covered, denies such intent. Meanwhile, OpenAI plans to build a massive artificial intelligence data center in Abu Dhabi, the company's first large-scale project outside the United States. This project, in partnership with United Arab Emirates firm G42, is set to become one of the most powerful AI computing clusters, reaching a capacity of 1 gigawatt. The United States and UAE are deepening their partnership, while US President Donald Trump recently agreed to give the UAE expanded access to advanced chips and has championed the data center plans as a way to develop an edge over China in the Middle East. In fact, we're also going to show you those visuals of Donald Trump's visit from the Gulf nation tour that he did. But some US officials worry about what they see as an offshoring of American AI capabilities and also a lack of security guarantees to limit Beijing's access to the chips. Meanwhile, Kim Kardashian has a big reason to celebrate. Well, the reality star revealed that she had graduated from her 4-year law office study program in a series of videos shared to her Instagram stories, and the program took Kim 6 years instead of 4 years to complete. She says it was due to COVID and work. Meanwhile, to the lady who has created history and brought pride to the entire nation, Banu Mushtaq, well, she's become the first Kannada writer to win the Booker Prize. Heartlamp bags the International Booker Prize, as we covered. She spoke to NDTV World. Listen in.
Your thought-provoking writings have opened up to the entire English-speaking audience through the translation by Deepa, and it really provided the kind of purpose that many Indian women were looking in terms of voicing their thoughts. And let me start by asking you, Banuji, how your writings are almost like a life's journey, chronicling experiences across 3 decades. How do you feel when it struck a chord with a global audience?
Yeah, I'm extremely happy. It's an incredible journey I have gone through, because all this started during 2022, when one of my story was translated by Deepa Bharti and submitted to a contest. It was once again the same process, long-listed, shortlisted, and it won the contest. The part of the package was one complete book of that author would be published in English. So afterwards, we could not stop the process. It went on, and it has landed in the Booker Prize Award.
Indeed. Your writings, many feel, are actually a reflection of your personal experiences, isn't it? Of many women in Muslim societies, in patriarchal societies in India. What do you think the global English-speaking audience found most compelling in these experiences, in these stories?
Yeah, global English audience, they were highly impressed by this characterization, the fiction, and the way of storytelling. They are impressed even by the style. They say it starts in an innocent way and gives an abrupt shock during the course of the story. And they are impressed by so many things that they discussed in my previous interactions with the press and the Booker Committee, jury's speech, everything. I have come to the conclusion that it is a new thing that they are going through, because the entire stories which are in Heartland, they are socially committed pieces of their lives. They are individual experiences which have been documented by me, but it's not a real. It is not only the real stories. They are not only the real experiences, but also it has grown in mind in a fiction, and it has come to this form which has been accepted by the global audience, and they are very happy. They are analyzing it, and they say this is not only it doesn't pertain only to Muslim women and only to South India. It has got universal quality. It can be applied to anywhere, wherever women are there.